What's up, design family, and welcome back to another episode of Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you back on the channel. On today's episode, we'll be looking at the biggest problems that all e-commerce brands or fashion brands will face as they begin to scale. I'll specifically be referencing e-commerce fashion brands that are going direct to consumers, so pretty much through their website, and they're doing the fulfillment on these orders themselves. This is based on my experience as a creative director at a product design agency, basically working with over 100 different brands that fit this specific category, aka the 1 to 10 million revenue mark. Why is this a special mark to be in? Well, you've essentially done the work and you've broken out. You've been able to launch a successful brand that people can get behind and you have some traction. But you're not quite at that point where you have a full-fledged establishment. And this is where a lot of brands really can struggle. They find themselves in a position where they've done the work and they have something concrete, but they're now faced with a bunch of new issues. I'll be running you guys through the top 3 issues that most brands really are facing in this category, and I'll give you guys my personal experiences and solutions on how to overcome these issues. So without further ado, we'll get right into the episode. What's up, design family, and welcome to Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you here. On this channel, we discuss all things sports fashion, graphic design, manufacturing, and technology. We'll discuss key topics, answer pressing questions, and provide actionable steps on starting your own product line. If you're interested in any of the above topics, stick around. You're in for a good one. Getting right into the episode, number 1 is going to be fulfillment issues. Let's take the lower end of the spectrum, the kinds of businesses that I mentioned. Let's just say you're generating $1 million of revenue per year. This is a great position to be in. You've done the work and you've got into this position. Well, now you're faced with the issue of how do I fulfill these orders? Let's look at the raw numbers. Assuming you're on the lower end of the spectrum, generating $1 million a year in revenue. Here, you're looking at approximately $80,000 a month in terms of orders, assuming an average basket size of 100. Let's assume that you have 1,000 orders a month now that you have to fulfill. That accounts to approximately 33 orders a day, and essentially, if you need to fulfill each of these orders, this includes collecting the order, printing the shipping label, collecting the items, putting them into their shipping, so on and so forth. Let's assume an average fulfillment time of 5 minutes. That's a minimum of 3 hours a day, or 165 minutes per day that you have to spend doing the fulfillment, that you have to do yourself. Imagine yourself as an entrepreneur, as a solo entrepreneur working by yourself. You're going to be spending a significant amount of your time and energy fulfilling orders. And that's zero, or that's not including at all anything to do with the marketing, with running your digital ad campaigns, with developing product, with connecting with influencers, so on and so forth. The many different tasks that you actually have to do. Well, what are you faced with? You have 2 choices. Either you can take the traditional route, rent out a warehouse to store your items. Obviously, $80,000 a month requires a place to store these orders, and you have to bring in someone to do the logistics, to do the picking and packing. You have to train them, you have to manage them. Here, you're opening up a can of worms, and between the $1 to $10 million mark, it may or may not be worth it to do that. Yes, there is something to be said about owning your own warehouse and your own facility, but at this stage, you can quickly find your finances and your time being eaten up trying to manage this system. What can you do instead? Well, you can go for a 3PL, or a third-party fulfillment option. Here, you're paying per pick and pack. Yes, it's going to be a bit more expensive upfront in terms of what you pay per pick and pack, but believe me, as you begin to amortize the time that you're saving, the personal time and effort that you're saving, here, you're really doing yourself a big favor. Some pitfalls here are that you may end up with a 3PL that is not highly regarded. So do your research beforehand, read the reviews, find out what people are saying, and make sure that you're picking the right partner. I can't recommend it enough, but definitely this is an option you definitely want to recommend. Number 2 on our list is going to be the product design, development, and production cycle. So again, you're one of those brands that is hitting between $1 to $10 million in revenue per year. Great. You've done a great job to get to this point, but you find yourself in a position where you no longer have anything on your website that is in stock, or at least the sizes that most people want. What do you do in this case? Well, you can just snap your fingers and all of a sudden you have these items in stock. You need to plan ahead in advance in terms of having these items in stock, ready to go when you're ready to sell them. This is where good product design, planning, development, and production comes into play. On average, you should be a minimum of 6 to 12 months out when it comes to your product design, planning, and development cycle. Let's look at a typical development cycle. You need approximately 2 months to develop a collection with around 12 styles. After that, you need approximately 2 to 2.5 months to develop or to prototype these styles, right? This is the creation of samples, the receiving of samples, fitting them, giving feedback, if necessary, creating another round of samples. So let's just assume 2.5 months. And then you'll need between 2 to 3 months for the batch production. Of course, with larger orders, you're gonna end up with more of a time frame necessary. But in general, allow 2 to 3 months. If you need to ship by sea, account for another month, a month and a half. This is why I say you have to be out a minimum of 6 to 12 months. This is going to ensure that you have the items on hand, ready to go when you need to sell them. So let's just say you're in January 2022. You should already be producing, right? These items should be in the pipeline, the items that you plan on selling in June 2022. Last but not least is going to be managing cash flow. Many times on this channel, I've explained that fashion is an extremely capital intensive business. You have to invest your money upfront to create and produce the goods before you even have the chance to begin to make a single dollar back. Because of this, you require an investment upfront. You really aren't seeing a return on your investment within 6 to 12 months because of the product design, development, and production cycle that I explained in point 2. So what do you do here? How do you continue to push? How do you not find yourself between cycles where you have money invested, but the product still hasn't arrived at your warehouse and you can't sell it yet? Or you've invested into an item and it's not doing so well and essentially you've lost that actual piece. Well, what can you do instead? There's a couple things that you can look at. Number one is going to be leveraging a loan from a bank. So build up a good relationship with a bank by building up credit with them, whether it's through credit cards or applying for a small business loan or whatever it is. This is going to be different depending on the country that you're in. But applying for a small business loan is going to give you the upfront capital that you need to invest into production cycles and to get a better price at times where you probably wouldn't have been able to do that with your own upfront investment. And I'm not telling you to go out and get a loan if you don't know what you're doing. This is a different topic for a different day. But leveraging a loan or a small business loan, if it's available to you, may be a good option. Number 2 is going to be look at creating better payment terms with your factory. Whether it's better deposit to final payment terms, let's just say they want 50-50, they can offer you 30-70. Again, this comes down to creating and crafting a good relationship with the factories you're working with. And lastly, you can look at credit terms. This is essentially a net payment term. It can be net 30, net 60, net 90, depending on the quality and the depth of your relationship with your factory. Chances are if you're generating between $1 to $10 million of revenue per year, you may be at that position. So a net 30 payment term essentially means that you only are required to pay the full balance of the goods within or after 30 days of receiving them. Net 60 is 60 days and net 90 is 90 days. This is a great option for you to keep cash on hand for your immediate expenses and to be able to receive the goods, start selling them and generate your cash back. So these are all options that you can look at. Definitely do with this information what you will. Well guys, that is it. That is a wrap on this episode in terms of the biggest problems that all fashion brands are going to face as they begin to scale. To recap quickly, we looked at number 1, which was fulfillment issues. 2 was the delayed product design, development, and production cycle. And 3, we looked at cash flow issues. So take the solutions I've given you with a grain of salt. Of course, your specific situation may be different. And if you want tailored solutions specifically for your business or the scale of where you're at, definitely check the link in the description below. If you want to schedule a one-on-one consultation call, we can hop on and I'd love to listen to what you have to say and generate a, let's just say, an action plan for your business. Guys, if you enjoyed this type of content and want to see others like it, definitely consider subscribing to this channel. We put out great content on a week-to-week basis, and it would mean the absolute world to us for you to be along for the ride. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fittdesign TV. Until next one, stay awesome.